Welcome to Decker Tech. I'm Aaron Decker, and today we're doing robot things, specifically lasers, because we are doing Heiner DPS, and he is chock full of lasers. There are lasers everywhere. He has his starting card is one. He's got two in the talents, and we are going to play with all of them, and it'll be lots of fun. If this is kind of content you enjoy, please consider supporting me directly through YouTube, whether that's a channel membership or the little tip heart at the bottom. Unfortunately, it is something that does make the world go round and makes these videos more possible, and I can churn them out a little faster and get more of this content to you. Enough of that, let's go to the lasers. I will say lasers a lot because it's a fun word. I like robot lasers. It's kind of funny, and I have the opportunity to do so, so bear with me on that. Alright. Heiner is my go-to suggestion for the easiest tank in lower difficulties because there's just lots of defense, some of the better talent cards here for keeping the team alive. Heiner also has recently had a couple upgrades. There's been some perk changes between the two of those that makes the Heiner DPS so much better. There's been a change to this passive, so now everyone gets Fortify on the first turn, which is kind of a big deal for Heiner, and also makes it possible for me to run no healers for this team comp. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But the build around here is Reactive Lazors. Reactive Lazor says transfer damage to fire. You may recognize this from the Otis video that fire damage, if we have access to fire damage, then we can buff that by the recent, I say semi-recent addition of the perk that says, hey, Fortify stacks increase our fire damage. In that video, Heiner was the one pumping Fortify to the piggy. In this case, Magnus is the one pumping Fortify to the robot. And this robot will use all of that Fortify perk to increase all of this laser damage. So all fire damage will be added, will be more powerful, and we'll be able to, starting at level 2, turn all of our damage to fire. So it is a fire build, which is very appropriate for lasers. Alright, level 3, Iron Furnace says, hey, every time you play an attack card, you get +1 fire damage. Theme, yes. And you gain block. Hey, block is nice because you need block to trigger reactive lasers. There are a lot of caveats for the whole when you block portion of this reactive laser. We'll get more into that later. It's just, it all plays into the theme though. Iron Furnace is kind of hard to track. During your turn, in the top left, it'll tell you whether or not you've done it or not, but it doesn't give you any buff or indicator on the combat screen. The way to see it is you have to go to the character sheet, hover over fire damage, the plus symbol here, and say base damage +4, and eventually it'll say Iron Furnace +5, 10, whatever you've gotten it to. So it is there. It works exactly like Bless in the fact that it's plus base damage. It fits in the exact same part of the damage calculation. I say that without 100% testing it, but I'm like 99% sure that it works exactly like Bless in the formula, the calculations, or like our weapon damage, that sort of thing. Fusion lasers, this is the one that you may have seen the highlight video of. This turns any card, whether it's an attack or not, into an attack that says deals fire damage based on the amount of energy used. And with the Otis, as similar with the Otis version of this per energy used, the card reads kind of weird. It does say base 7 damage, and like for every energy used, do 7 damage. But the way the damage calculation happens is you add all of your Bless, your Fortify, your base damage first, and then you multiply by the amount of energy. You don't multiply by the energy first. So this isn't like if I do a 3 energy card, it's not 21 fire damage plus my Fortify, my Bless, and stuff like that, and multiply by powerful. It's instead 7 plus my Fortify, my Bless, all that, then multiplied by powerful and multiplied by the amount of energy used, which makes this much more powerful than it may read originally. Now, it does have 3 uses, so we don't have to make sure we're using like a 7 energy attack right after this. There's no need to do that. If you do a bunch of 2s and 3s after it, as long as you're spending a decent amount of energy after it in the next 3 cards, you will get lots of value out of this. Also, this will not trigger on a 0-cost card, so you don't have to worry about that. You can fill in a couple 0 costs in between it. The biggest thing is you just want to be playing 1-cost cards after this laser. 2s and 3s are plenty enough. That's all you need if you're building Heiner correctly, so that the big laser beam does laser things. I said it. I'm going to say it a lot more. And level 5, both of these are fairly useless for this build. +1 energy is always nice, but 1 energy in the grand scheme of things is not much. It's definitely a by the time you get to level 5, you'll know whether you want this energy or not. If you don't need it, go ahead, stick over this Indomitable. This is very Heiner unique, Heiner specific. You're not going to see it anywhere else. When you fully block an attack, get some of the shields back. And that is important to us because, one, we're going to give Heiner Taunt, which is kind of, he'll be the lightning rod, so to speak. But also this Reactive Lazor, it will only trigger if you block, so if every time you block you get more shields back, that means you're more likely to block a second time. Now, as I said, Reactive Lazor is a little finicky because there's lots of ways that you will not trigger it, and it does have 10 charges, so even if you get it triggered a lot, you're not likely to run out of it. We can basically expect to always have Reactive Lazors up, but if for some reason it falls off because we get hit too much or we just can't find it, as if like with our level 1 gameplay, we will try to rely on some other damage instances, specifically the blunt damage, because that's affected by that Fortify perk, if you recall. This we're really building around this idea that Fortify increases fire damage and blunt damage, and that's our safety net for if we don't have Reactive Lazors, is going to be blunt damage for the most part. Yes. All right, let's get to the cards. So in the starting deck here, because we're going to have Reactive Lazors up for the majority of the game, like just the first couple of combats, halfway through Act 1, we're going to level up. And from then on, we'll have everything turned to fire. So our damage type doesn't matter too much. The only preference we have for damage types is going to be blunt, because that is also affected by that Fortify. So really, what we're looking for are attacks that have all monsters. So things that hit every monster. We're looking for efficient ones to do that. We're looking for ones that say repeat, because those are multi-hits. And because, remember, multi-hits and AoE hits, those things are going to be affected. They're going to get more benefit out of that Fortify stacks that we're developing. And as with most builds, Carnage is the end-all, be-all, most efficient card. Look for devs to ruin that for us here in the near future. And then, what's the... Oh, and/or zero-cost attacks, because we want the most efficient, the most instances of damage for the least amount of energy as possible. Now you'll see, when we go through all these searches, there's one here that stands out as a kind of a shoehorn for the build. Cost 0, it draws a card, it's blunt damage, and it's an attack. We need attacks to trigger Iron Maiden. Blunt damage is affected by Fortify, and a 0-cost draw? Yes, please. So Bluff is the bestest card for Heiner DPS. We start with 2 of them by default, and so even though on Madness 16 you can't craft rares, you start with 2 and you can upgrade them. You don't want to be spending 1 energy for them. They're much less efficient at 1 energy for a draw card, but a 0 energy for draw card, this fits the bill 100%. You will craft this 3rd one as soon as you can. In this starting town, I don't, because I'm playing on Madness 14 for video's sake, but I do play this on Madness 16. The only reason I'm doing 6+8 is because for video's purposes, I can't do things like divinations or randomness. Like, I have to take the random out of my run, and to kind of make that more smooth and give you a better viewing process, I have to go 6+8 to make that happen. But I still give myself the limitations of no rares and no divinations to make up for the differences in that difficulty. And I do test these at Madness 16. This is very viable at 16. So those are the types of attacks we're doing. So we're going to be upgrading the bluffs and adding another one when we can. We've added in punches just because they're a 0-cost. So of the 0-cost attacks, this punch can actually target a monster, whereas fast strike can only do front monster. It's also blunt damage, which is affected by our Fortify. And remember that even though this blunt is doing 7 base and this is doing 10 base, I have the same amount of perks for both. This is going to be affected by our Fortify that we start the game with on Heiner because of his passive. So this is equal to fast strikes, and it will become better the longer the game goes on. We will eventually be cutting punches by the end, but they're kind of our filler card when we don't have other options. War Paint, because you do need powerful. Powerful is always important. Flanking Strike, because, you know, if powerful is important, then Fury is just as important. But as it is with Fury, there are just not many efficient cards. Flanking Strike is honestly the only attack that is viable for Fury. Any other Fury generation is going to have to come through items or the triple R Fury card at the end of the game that we'll be adding. And then we have our starting card. This is another laser beam that Heiner can do. He has 3 lasers in total. We'll talk about the kind of play pattern of them. This is usually the first laser you'll play because it's affected by it's stronger but the number of cards in your hand. You will want to do your powerful and your fury before this because that'll just amp this damage. But this is the go-to first laser because it applies burn. It's already fire damage on its own, so we don't have to have our talent one to turn it to fire. And it does all the things we want. It applies burn, it does fire damage, it gives us taunt, and it gives us fortify. Remember, taunt is good for us because we're going to have reactive lasers. We want to take hits to then ricochet damage back at the opponent. And then we want fortify because that increases our damage. Yes. If you didn't know, the fortify talent was added after they wanted to make Heiner better because they wanted Heiner DPS to be a cool thing. So the fortify talent is literally built for Heiner. So yes. And then of course, cleave and sweeping strike. Sweeping strike is the most efficient multi-hit card for warriors, other than carnage, of course, because we just can't craft carnage in the starting town. So if you can craft the carnages of the world, add yourself a carnage and add yourself a pummel, because pummel is 2 for 5, carnage is 2 for 6. So, you know, it is. Those are 2 cards I'd fill in instead of these guards. For now, guards are okay just with the fact that they do add fortify. We're going to cut them eventually, but I just don't have enough space. I don't have enough efficient cards to put into Heiner's deck, and they'll do in a pinch. We took out all the defensive, block-oriented stuff for Heiner. The only things we kept in were just the fortify ones. Yes, that's enough about a starting deck. Hopefully that answers things. I had a couple failed runs trying to explain this to everyone, but we want powerful, we want fury, we want efficient attacks, and laser beams. And the reason, so we're down to 15 cards. Boons can no longer limit that. So we will want as much card draw as possible. I'm just saying this because I forgot to talk about change weapon. So bluffs, as soon as we can add them, are great. 0 cost, draw a card. Battle plan, not so great. Change weapon, this is pretty good. The 0 cost version, it is card neutral and energy neutral as long as you draw 2 attacks with it. So by the end of the game, you're going to cut this. But up for the majority of the game, this will be an efficient card if you play it as one of your first cards. You can't play it when you have 10 cards in hand because then it'll only draw 1. But once you have 9 or less cards in your hand, you play this, you'll find 2 cards, put 2 attacks from your deck, put them in your hand, and then you'll discard 1. And this also is actually extra beneficial to helping us find our laser beams because it takes 2 cards out of our deck and it's a card itself. So it's basically 3 card slots, which means that we have more space to pick up this laser. Because you do this, it removes this card and the 2 attacks out of your deck, and then you're more likely to draw this laser when you do things like bluff to draw a card, if it wasn't in your starting hand already, or if you didn't get enough inspire to draw it. So the goal of Heiner, we're trying to make his deck efficient as possible, as early as possible, to make it so that we can grab this laser and the reactive laser and the fusion laser. We want all these on turn 1 in our first turn. So we're going to be doing a lot of card draw and a lot of deck smoothing to make that happen. We just can't afford to use the 1 cost war paints. If you have enough energy, go ahead, flip these war paints to the draw card version. But I find that in Act 1, I just don't have enough energy to make that happen. Yep, enough about the starting deck. Let's go to perks. So with the perks, actually, let's look at everyone else's starting deck for now, because give people a chance to take a look at these, screenshot them, kind of take a look, do as needed to make this deck as simple. There will be an Andrin guide coming out. I've made some changes to how I play Andrin. I don't think I've actually made a support guide for him yet either. So Andrin and Gustav are going to get some new support videos to explain the efficiency of these cards and how to play them out. Yep, those are the decks. Let's go to perks. So Heiner in this build is very perk hungry. Very, very perk hungry. He's a slow robot. I want to get him as fast as possible. I need to go before my enemies because I need to, 1, try to kill them before they could kill me, and 2, put up my reactive laser so that if they do take their turn, they just run into laser beams. Yes. So we got speed perks. We got energy perks. We got lots of damage perks because remember, we can't turn everything to fire until we hit level 2. So for level 1, we're going to struggle a little bit. So I'm going to pump all this into slashing. This last node is not as efficient. It costs 3 points for 2 damage. So there are some versions where I cut this and I'll put it elsewhere. I'll show you where that's at. We want Fury because we will be using that, and we want the better version that says 5 per stack. This node is optional. This is plus vulnerable charges. Fusion Lasers does apply vulnerable. If for any reason you want to, instead of do the guards in your starting deck, you could do a Howl. This would be a good reason to pick this up. I mentioned this because anyone that can apply vulnerable in a consistent manner should probably have the vulnerable perk, just in case the other people's fail. So if for any reason Magnus can't get full stacks of vulnerable on the enemy, or they lose their stacks of vulnerable, Heiner can reapply it or put it up to max in case Magnus failed. Like, this is really important on corruptors like Sadness. If you don't have enough deck thinning or deck draw to get through your deck and consistently get all the cards you need to apply your vulnerable, Heiner can then just say, hey, I gotcha, and cover up the rest. If you're efficient enough, you really don't need it, and you can put these points elsewhere, but it's just a good safety net. Blunt damage. So you can see I didn't go all the way in blunt. When I was doing my runs, most of them, I did something like this, where I didn't have the final node in slashing or in blunt. Of these two, I'd say slashing is more important for the Act 1. Because by the time we get to the later acts, all of our damage will be fire, and our most efficient cards in the early game are the slashing cards. You will want plus taunt charges because one of our lasers does have addition to taunt. Taunting for 2 turns is much better than taunting for 1 turn when you are trying to get them to hit you to kill themselves on your laser beams. If anyone wants to count how many times I said lasers, please go right ahead. We must be picking up this Fortify stack. This one is integral. You must pick this one up. You need the, hey, stacks of Fortify go to 50, and they increase your fire damage. Elemental, we are doing a fire build, so we want as much fire damage as possible. We want as much burn stacks as possible. I just go with burn charges. And then, of course, powerful is important. Now, usually here, I will say go for the 10% per charge. I did that my first couple runs, and then I realized I was doing something wrong, because if I want the opponents to attack me on their turn, then I want powerful on my turn. And if you go with this right one here, you'll lose your stacks at the end of your turn, and then when they hit you, you won't have powerful for their turn. So, yes, if you're one-shotting or killing everyone on turn 1, this right side one is still stronger, but it's way more entertaining and fun to do this middle one. So I highly recommend doing the middle one, because this one says, hey, my charges go to 12, they don't decay as fast, which means I have them for the enemy turn when they hit me, and then my lasers beams do more damage. And nothing here in Mystical. And of course, you just want the Inspire there. So yes. Mandatory, I would say middle one's better, but either case, one or the other is mandatory. All the fire stuff is mandatory. The physical, all these damage ones are not required. If you're going to pick them up, go definitely for the efficient ones. The bottom ones, not so much. Vulnerable, not required. Fortify, 100% required. Taunt, good. Fury, very good. And speed and energy, always, always good. You can see I only had 1 leftover point, which is crazy. Very crazy. Oops, cancel. What did I do? I changed the universe. I didn't like it. And then, of course, people like to see other people's perks. So this is Andrin, my speedy manipulator / bard healer. I guess I should look at these notes here. Sorry. Mark reduces slashing. That's just for Act 1 mainly. Powerful stacks, because he will be applying powerful to the robot at all times. Stanza does +1 damage. This one's kind of weak, but hey, it's one more instance of bless on the robot, because I will be applying Stanza to the robot with one of the perks from Andrin. I mean, one of the cards from Andrin. Cornelius here he's got some speed manipulation in his deck. He wants to go fast. He is helping the team out by doing vulnerable. The middle vulnerable thing, so it stacks to 7. He is, of course, applying as much burn as possible. He will sometimes be applying powerful, depending on the cards you pick up, and/or I just like having someone else that can use the banner or other items that give the team powerful. And nothing in Mystical. And Magnus, nothing crazy here. Speed, slow, energy, and He applies lots of vulnerable. He applies reinforce to the team and himself. He'll be applying taunt to the robot. So this is another great place to pick up the taunt talent. None of these taunt ones actually are viable, and I'll talk about that because these resistances don't affect the damage the block takes, and all the cards that give taunt also give block. So if you're giving someone lots of taunt such that you want extra taunt charges, then you don't need to be increasing the resistances. So it's kind of a tree, and nothing else crazy there. He is just speed, slow, and shields. All right, where are we at now? Perks. Let's go to combat. Act 1 combat. So as I said, Act 1 combat is a little weak, and I'm actually going to step by the caravan here because I would like a little help with having this war banner. I could have either Cornelius, Andrin, or Heiner pick it up because they all have powerful charges. I'm going to go with Andrin in this case. And none of this else is very useful. I would say there is an option if you're really scared for Heiner's life because you're not running a healer like me, or just for any other reason. Cheese is guaranteed here. Problem is, you don't really have space for that that perk there. The vitality charges, I would like to suggest the cheese, but I honestly just don't have enough perk points to suggest it. Anyway, moving on to the combat. I will try to breeze through everyone else's turns. Like I said, there will be an Andrin guide coming out soon. If you have questions here, I have 1, 2, 3 draws. 1, 2, 3 gets me to the setup, which should get me to most of the rest of the deck. Speed-wise, I don't need to speed up Magnus here. Probably don't need both a chance. Let's just not go to the initiative here. So, speed up Cornelius, speed up Magnus. Nope. Whatever. I'll speed up the robot with the other guy. It's fine. I changed the universe. This is not how I practiced it. So one thing I didn't mention on Andrin's talent here. So Ode to War says powerful evasion and regen. Now, remember how I said when you block to trigger the lasers, the things get in the way? Evasion is one of those things. If you evade an attack, you didn't block it, and it doesn't trigger the lasers. So Andrin, specifically, if you're going to use Andrin as one of your supports, or someone else giving Ode to War, you want to not pick up the evasion perk, which I usually would pick up, because I don't want the robot to evade. I want him to get hit. Hit me! Anyway. Alright. Yeah, we'll do helping hand. So the first couple of combats are some of the weaker ones for the robot because he does not have the transformed fire damage yet. Alright, Cornelius. Speed up the robot for me. Thank you. Give the robot some energy. Thank you. And do some fire shenanigans. Alright, so I need max powerful stacks. 12 is the max, so I don't need to do the other war paint. The reason I don't do the other war paint is because Heat Lasers says, hey, I do more based on the number of cards in hand. I want to do Fury before I do the Heat Lasers. And then I can do the Heat Lasers. And then I need to go find the rest of my cards here. I think I should have enough energy for both these Sweeping Strikes. But if I don't, then I should have kept the Punch. And then I need to draw some cards. Draw some cards. Sweeping Strike is better than Cleave because of 3 targets. So Sweeping Strike and Sweeping Strike. And yeah, this should be good. And if I had Reactive Lazors, it would trigger and they'd all go bye-bye. But I don't. I should be running Cauterize. Are you running Cauterize? You're not running Cauterize. It's okay. It'll be fine. I'm running Vitalizing Serenade. So, have some cards here. Have some cards here. Block you up a bit. This is all dead. It really doesn't matter what Magnus does here, to be honest. So even though I don't have a healer, Andrin's going to fill in as a, hey, by the way, guys, have some vitality, which with the, with Decadence, it really sucks. It really only adds 2 for vitality instead of 5. So it's only healing for like 8, but a heal's a heal, right? And if I want it to be really efficient, I'd let Heiner have a turn by speeding him up or dispelling him some way so that he could regen here. But we'll just have Cornelius finish everyone off with, you know, the fire things. And ta-da, that's how we do it. So, yes, I'm falling a little behind on the first couple of fights, but really, it's very rarely that I will end the fight with less hit points than I started with, because Heiner is going to be giving the team the fortify on turn 1 with his passive. Magnus will be giving the team lots of block, and even though Heiner's going to have taunt, Magnus will be eventually, as I get through the game, providing him with more and more block. And yes, I'll just be a healthy robot. And of course, you can run a team comp that has a healer. You don't have to run this comp, but just throwing that out there. Now, with this team, Heiner, I would say maybe go to the hatch. The problem with the hatch is some of the cards there are trap cards. Any of the ones that say shuffle into your deck, a fire spell is actually a trap card because it's increasing the amount of cards in your deck, which means you're less likely to grab your lasers, which is the whole point of playing the laser robot. So, burn charges, yes. Extra fire cards in your deck, no. But go to the hatch because it's efficient, it's fire stuff. You can honestly go any route here. Not really much in Act 1 that the robot needs. So let's go to Act 2. Team Combat, Act 2 deck, yep. Sorry, it's been a day, gal. It's been a day. Act 2 deck list. So here, we have now brought in more flanking strikes if we can. Great. We now have Reactive Lazor. Fantastic. We added in the bluff because we now can craft a rare card, so we're bringing in more card draw and trying to make a more efficient deck. Now that we have access to rares, we can also bring in Blood Rage, which gives us more energy. And like I said, even though I don't have a healer, I'm perfectly fine hurting myself because I have a little bit of vitality going on, and that just makes enough difference that most things don't hurt me because I have so much block and they don't take many turns. Carnage, because I have access to rares, I now have the most efficient card. Once this transforms to fire, this is deal lots and lots of fire damage. It also clears a little bit of buffer, which, What else we got here? And, oh yeah, switching the war paints. So, war paints, the only reason I'd say keep them is if you still need the powerful, because you didn't itemize for it yet, or because you have excess energy and you don't have efficient card draw. So, I think in this run, I have gauntlets here that say I start with 5. Andrin is still giving me 5, and so I need just enough to get to 12. So I need that one war paint still to get to max stacks. After that, Andrin will keep me topped off with his Ode to War every turn if I go multiple turns. So if you're going to keep them, flip them if you have the energy now that you have Blood Rage, and that'll be more efficient. And yeah. We're just looking for more laser beams, more fury, and more efficient attacks. So we got efficient attacks, we got card draw, we got energy, we got card draw. Still, Sweeping Strike is still the best attack. You see I've gotten rid of Cleave because Sweeping Strikes is better. And Flanking Strikes is Fury. And yes. Let's see how this looks. Or do I talk about items first? Let's do the combat and then let's talk about items. So in this path, I would say there's some really good options here in the fire biome. This is why I say go to the second. They will be adding a new zone here in the Black Forge soon. For now, it will just give me the wall because there'll be one combat in there and you'll get the wall, which will do fortify stacks on Magnus, which will give more fortify to the robot, which is fantastic. There will also eventually be a zone in there which does more things with fortify. That'll be coming out, like by the time you see this video comes out, that'll be the end of this month. So there'll be more reasons to go to the Black Forge than just the wall now. So odds are you're going to path here. On your way there, I recommend going to the Goblin Chieftain. That'll guarantee drop a weapon for your vulnerable applier, and also a weapon for the robot, which says draw cards when you attack, which is kind of how we get to laser beams, right? You just do a bluff, you draw 2 cards, bam, you got found a laser beam. So you'll likely go up this way into the Black Forge, do all that stuff in there, and come out and fight the Lava Lord. So let's go that way. Remove a card. Freezies. Now that we have Reactive Lazors is the time to talk about when and when it is not a beneficial card. Let's see if I can focus on this. So I have no card draws, 1, 2, 3 card draws. 1, 2, 3. I only have 8 cards in my deck because this is a corrupted thing. Okay, so I don't need to do one of the vigilance. Yep. Is that how much energy do I have? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, this is good. Song-wise, I think we speed up in this version. We speed up Cornelius and the robot, and Cornelius speeds up Magnus. Yes. Powerful to the robot. Make sure Magnus's turn is great. I do want Fortify. Entrench is super expensive, so I don't really want that. At least not this turn yet, because I don't have my my master yet. These guys are not immune to vulnerable, so we want as much of that as possible. And honestly, I just want the house. So robot has some energy. Robot has some energy. Beat up the wolf. And do the fire things. Prep the world for the laser beams. We be howling, not concerning. Do it yourself is another great source of Fortify. More cards to the robot, and laser time. So play pattern is I want Fury first. There's lots of intricacies to the most efficient way to do this. So I want max powerful. So let's do max powerful. And then I want Fury. I could transform it to fire and then do the Fury and then do the laser beam. Like there's lots of ways to do reactive laser, heat lasers, and your Fury generators. There's some finesse on how to do it. The simplest way is stack up your Fury other than your triple and Fury spell, which we don't have yet. And then do your heat laser first, and then transform everything to fire. And of course, if you don't have these in your hand, you got to draw first. But if you have them, do it in that order, then do your card drawing. And then have a little bit more Fury, some more card drawing. What do I got here? Punch, punch, punch. Yeah. Alright, so I could finish them off, but I'd like to show you Reactive Lazors in action. Or more specifically, in inaction. Because look at this. Skyhunter attacks, no trigger. I had evasion. Slime attacks, no trigger. Because he purged my block, which means I did not block. So there's so many ways that Reactive Lazors doesn't trigger. So yes, it's lots of fun to use it, but don't be surprised if you're like, oh man, lasers didn't go off. What happened? It's because multiple reasons. One, evasion gets in the way if you don't have block for any reason. I'm trying to think. There's one other instance where I was surprised. It's like, why didn't that happen? And then I had to read the card. Oh, it said ignore block. Maybe that's a spoiler. Maybe that's the Act 3 combat where we do that. But this thing's dead. I'm just gonna pass turn to someone here. Go kill the slime. So, just Reactive Lazors is fun, but honestly, in all these videos I show you, I don't think I get a chance to do it because every monster I leave alive has some stupid way to get around it. Yeah. So let's talk about items. So I said over here, Goblin Chieftain has some good stuff, and in here has some good stuff. Let's talk about these items. So, Fortify for this team, or for Heiner, is a new access to Bless, to more base damage. Now, the problem is, you're not applying much Fortify charges yourself. So, the wall is okay, but you're not doing Fortify yourself, so you want to give it to someone else. Magnus is a good fit because Magnus can survive this horrible -3 penalty. -3 speed is a big deal, and Magnus can barely get around it. Magnus can barely carry this wall. It is so heavy and so slow. So plus fortified charge is great. Bastion is of course better because it has a lower speed penalty, and it also does more cool things. So either of these is great. I would flip them to Magnus or whoever else is applying the fortify to your robot. Your robot can pick up the Crusader Helm to have a little extra fortify himself on the starting turn. And other than that, Stone Amulet and the Tyrant's Necklace. Tyrant's Necklace is guaranteed in the blue biome. It's really hit or miss on whether you want to go green or blue for your next act. So if you go blue, one reason to go there is to go fight the beaver on the bottom path and pick up this necklace for whoever's applying the fortified charges to you. Otherwise, try to pick up 1 or 2 stone amulets on that person because more charges is fantastic. What else we got here? Attacks, melee attacks. So I would say melee draw. So the Goblin Chieftain is guaranteed to drop the slicer. It'll give you either one draw or 2 draws. The damage type doesn't help us much because we're transforming everything to fire. Sharp doesn't help us, and this base damage doesn't help us, but just drawing another card is great, and this is a guaranteed pickup. A better version is, of course, this Continuum Blade, where all damage, so this will affect all of our attacks, including the fire ones, and it does 2 times per turn you draw a card baseline, 3 and powerful if you get the Epic. By Epic, I mean Corrupted. So that's kind of the good ones to look for on Heiner. You also want anything that says Fury, which is Edge of Fury or Berserker Claws. Edge of Fury is also here in the red biome, but it competes with going into the dungeon. And since the dungeon is coming out soon, I expect most people will path to the dungeon. Otherwise, what you do is you just go up to the Goblin Chieftain, kill him, and then go to the right and kill the Minotaur, pick up this Edge of Fury. Some of my runs, I've done that. It was really strong to have this way to get more Fury, because remember, Heiner has to build up those those Iron Furnace stacks. So you have to do melee attacks anyway before you do your big damage spells, and this just gives you another way to get Fury. Otherwise, Gladiator Helmet is fantastic for that. And the Berserk Potion. Berserk Potion is guaranteed in Act 3 if you do the north part talking to Maluka. You do have to have 1,000 gold for the boat or someone that can get past that boat fee. Yes, but Fury is another way to buff us up. Otherwise, you're just looking for any items that also get powerful. You'll see a lot of my armor slots will have this combat start gain powerful. You don't really need the ones that maintain it as much if you're going the middle perk that says stack to 12 and decay 1 at a time instead of decay at end of turn, because you don't have to maintain that 10 stacks a turn like I do on most of my runs. This is a team that can do the Straw Hat quest line. If you know how to do that, that's the epic, the purple quest in the Act 1 at the lake. You follow that through because this pathing, we are going into the Black Furnace area, the Black Forge area, which means we get the Black Key, which means we can unlock and get to the Straw Hat zone. I think that covers all the items. Fury, powerful, and card draw. Yes. I mean, I think there's other when attack. I think it's attack. Continuum Blade, Berserker Claw, Edge of Fury, Raider Slicer. Yeah, that's basically all of them. Because we only have access to melee attacks as a warrior, so nothing like the Tempest can happen for us. Yep. Yep, that covers it for items. Pets. Let's talk about pets. So, of the pets, there's actually one that really ruins your plan, and that is the wet one. Where's the one that says downpour? Yeah, don't let anyone pick up Chumpy. Also, don't let anyone get a Corrupted Stormy, because a Corrupted Stormy says apply wet to everyone. Those are bad for your team. Don't do it. Other than that, any damage pet is great for the robot. I would say the best one is probably Flamey. Because you're just trying to do some sort of damage attack and it applies fire. Any damaging pet is great because you will transform your damage to fire, but the problem is the pet will attack before you have a chance to put up the laser that transforms into fire, so that's why I say Flamey is best. Asmodee is just one that applies burn. Someone else on your team can use it though, and any team should run Oculi on your fastest hero or one of your faster heroes. Yep. Covers it for pets. Moving on to Act 4. I'm a little hoarse because it's been a long day. Items, perks, Act 4 deck. Yep. So Act 4 deck, we have more efficient cards. So this is where we really get to play into the Fury side of things. Robot is now angry. Act 3 or 4, people have not been triggering his laser beams. He's upset. He would like to punch things in his anger. He'll get angry and then he'll punch things. Those are the things that we've added. Angry Robot is now angry. Enraged, we want all the Fury ones, and this Infuriate, now that we have the Fusion Laser, is a great thing to trigger. You can see my deck, the highest cost card is just this triple my Fury, double my Fury. We eventually want to upgrade it to the triple the Fury. I just don't have enough shards. I will eventually upgrade it by the end of the act, but 3 energy is the highest my deck goes, and that's because Fusion Laser triggers 3 times, so it's okay to go Infuriate Carnage Carnage or Infuriate Pummel Pummel as your 3 cards after the Fusion Laser, and you'll still do, you know, 5, 6, 7 instances of damage. So it's still fantastic. It'll still clear the board. We're now basically down to only Fury, only laser beams, and only efficient attacks. The Pummel is really only here for the Archon fight, just give you something that will go the distance. I had really good luck having 2 Carnages and 2 Pummels. If you don't have Carnages and Pummels, go with flanking strikes or punches, or, you know, any efficient card there. Those will do the trick. Yep, depending on how much energy you have for the final fight with the Archon is whether or not you will keep a Blood Rage that sticks around or that vanishes. Suit that to your needs as needed. But lasers, and more lasers. I forgot to look at the rest of the team's decks in Act 2. I apologize. We'll look at their decks here in Act 3. They're doing most of the things you'd expect for their class and role. Alright, I think we're ready for combat. Which one of these hardest fights is harder? That one has this one has a fire resisty rock. As you can see, they start with 11 buffer, but Andrin, as the great support he is, has an Oculi that clears 2 buffer, and he's got these Vigilances that clear more buffers. So let's see, I do have, in this version of this timeline, I have the spellbook to draw 2 cards there, so 1, 2, 3, 4 card draws. 1, 2, 3, 4 should be fine. Remove some more buffer, remove some more buffer, make someone go fast. Get some energy, draw some cards. I do not have the corrupted thing that allows me to play this on turn 1. So now that we're in the late game, Magnus here, any defenses that start in his hand give a discount of 1. So we will try to stack as much Fortify as possible on the robot. So I just speed up the robot. So Magnus, imagine if he had a ring or a wall or something that said plus fortify charges, because look at this. Fortify charges, fortify, fortify, fortify. It would be so much better from a Magnus right now to have plus charges there. They're a little hard to come by, but they are a premium, and you should do your best to find them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do this, Valiant Defender, and hey Heiner, have some fortify. Have some fortify. Do it yourself, robot. Do it yourself. Lots of shields, lots of fortify, all the things that a robot will do for victory. This timeline I have Fountain Pen, so I need to find Scrolls of Intellect and play Scrolls of Intellect. 5 energy, so 1 here. Cauterize is to save the angry robot from himself. Gotta heal the angry robot, soothe its worries. And what was this? So Searing Nova is weaker than Searing Blast. I just want to get buffer charges off and put more fire stacks, burn stacks on the opponents. Because remember, I chewed through a lot of buffer to get here. Alright, now robot things. Remember, I want to make him angry and then do laser beams. Problem is, I have 10 energy, so these enrages, I don't really want to play them because then I'll cap on energy, and I don't have any of my flanking strikes because I only have one in this universe. So I need to do my laser beams. So this one is the one I do first, and then I can do this one after, and then let's do the angry stuff. There's my fusion lasers. Let's see if I can find the flanking strike. Still no flanking strike. I think I am doing this wrong because I'm not paying attention to my energy. So let's get my iron furnace stacks going. Here we are. So I want a little more iron furnace stacks, but my bluffs are hiding here at the bottom of the deck. So it's okay to just go into the fusion laser side of things. So fusion laser, double my enrage. So even though I was missing on my bluffs, and that was not a triple fury, I still did lots of damage here. Honestly, I could literally kill these people off, but let's take a look at how Reactive Lazors works out. Oops. They'll kill himself. Oh wait, except for this guy, he's about to kill himself. Nope. Why didn't he kill himself, ladies and gentlemen? Because he ignored block. So the lasers is fun, and I thought it was very hilarious that I found two combats that completely ignored the stinking Reactive Lazors. And of course, Cornelius can heal up the robot and or kill off the guy. So let's just do that. I don't want to dispel this bleed because that 56 bleed is 56 healing. So we will let the Cornelius do his thing. Oh, I might have needed to give him some inspire. Whoops. Oh no, where's shoot? Draw it. Anyway, I screwed this up. I'm supposed to give myself a little bit of inspire to get this cauterize, to then heal the robot, to then kill the bad guy. But, you know, as it is, the thing's gonna die to Cornelius now. Yes, that is how the lasers crumble. What do the lasers do? Cookies crumble. Lasers, that is how the lasers pew. I don't know. It's funny. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we play the Lazorz Heiner. If you want to see the Archon fight, go ahead and see the highlight reel. That is me showing off. Wait, I lied. That was not the Archon fight. I don't have an Archon fight video for you. Sorry. Let me know in the comments if you need to see the Archon fight or any other specific fight for these Heiner. I will maybe do the Ignito fight with Heiner here because the fire boss is uniquely resistant to fire builds. And I've had some people comment on the fire problem with Otis, and I imagine people run that with Heiner as well. So we'll take a look at that in a future video. Otherwise, let me go through my list here. Combat team comps. Anyone that can apply Fortify to Heiner will be best. Magnus is really good because he can carry the shield. Let's actually go look at the other screen. This will get my brain going a little better here. Let's go look at this. So anyone that can apply Fortify, which is basically only warriors. Magnus, I think, is the best fit because he goes super fast. He can shield the team, allowing Heiner to do... And he has this defense mastery. So... Oops, not perks, talents. Right here. Defense mastery. So all of the ways to apply Fortify are defense cards, and Magnus can get them for super cheap. Magnus can go super fast to wear the shield, so it's a really good fit. I say the shield, the wall from the furnace thing. So I think Magnus is a great fit, but anyone that can do Fortify will do. Heiner, the team doesn't really need much healing. The reason you need to bring a healer along is just for Bless, because Bless or Fortify will have the same effect to increase your damage and make things go disappearsies when you do fusion lasers. And mages are good for energy, but I mean, Cornelius is really the best mage for you. Cornelius or Evelyn, because burn stacks are good, and Cornelius is really good with applying burn stacks to the enemy. I mean, he has a +4 burn perk. Like, that just goes to show. He's the fire mage, right? So, I mean, a lot of this team is pretty solid, which is why some of these later guides, it's kind of hard to say this is just a generic Heiner DPS guide, because really the people that go best with him are the only people that go with him very well. Like, yes, you can make a lot of other things fit, but it will be just so much less efficient than having Magnus and Cornelius here to hold the robot's hand. And then Andrin is just great to keep the team going fast, because Andrin and Gustav have the best ways to keep a team going quickly, but Gustav has a lot of sharp stuff that doesn't help the robot at all. So Andrin is my pick there. And remember, the reason you want the robot to go fast is because you want him to go before the enemy to kill some of them off, but more importantly, to put up his defensive and those reactive lasers, so when the enemy takes their first turn, they get shot down by laser beams. One more lasers for your guys' count. Yes, team counts. What else? Unlock. So, one thing I forgot to mention on the Heiner here. So, Heiner unlocks here at the tower. If you don't have him unlocked, you go here, you talk to him, and he says, hey, go find my core. And that's in the Fire Act, the dungeon area there. I don't know how it's going to change with the dungeon, but normally you just go in there, do the one event, and you get the core out of it. But normally these nodes here, because this is a Cornelius node, but when I go here, I get shards. This is the Otis node. If you have Otis in the team, you go here, you can give your teammate a spell or get resources. Thul's very similar thing. You can give the other scouts or the other healers in the team these cool cards. The thing is, Heiner is uniquely the only one that his node is bad. If you go here because you have Heiner on your team, the only thing you can get out of this is passing a hazard. The worst thing you can get out of here is an injury for the whole team. So don't go here. Like, it's uniquely, of these 4 nodes, it is the only one that turns bad when you have the person in your team. So don't go there with Heiner. Right. And last but not least, new channel members. So I'm doing my best to get these things out. I have limited resources, being all things considered. I don't like talking about this much, but the best thing you can do to support this channel and make these videos possible is directly through YouTube. They have their own version of Patreon these days to try to compete with Patreon, and that's what I've set myself up with. So if you want to see more of these videos, I have the tiers set to $1, $5, and I think $10 a month. I don't remember the last one is. It's a little crazy high because I want to give people the option to ask for it. But I mean, even just $1 a month helps a lot. And I try to keep the perks as minimal as possible, because honestly, I'd like all viewers to have all the benefits. But each one of those tiers has a unique perk. The last one, I think, gives you access to me on Discord, so you can talk to me directly. But I mean, I'm still going to be freely talking to everyone on YouTube. So as I say, hey, please give me money, I will also say, hey, you don't need it to enjoy this content to its fullest. Honestly, if you give me a video request or you tell me what you like or dislike, I will do my best to incorporate that in future videos. I like to think that I respond very quickly and well to any comments and requests that people give me. And I will try to continue to do so to the best of my abilities, and I will see you later. Peace.